There were strands of seaweed floating about me, and I smelled something thick and pungent as I approached the dark shape. The flippers rose up again from another passing swell, and I saw that the legs were enclosed in a wetsuit. A diver, no doubt, who was out here drunk or alone or inexperienced, and who had drowned less than 100 yards from shore. A not too uncommon story, and even as I swam toward the diver, puffing and cursing at the weight of the rope on my shoulders and the weakness of my legs and the sharp pain in my side, the old phrase, rubbing salt in a wound, seemed appropriate at that moment. I thought that this might end up as a column in Shoreline. When I reached the diver, I was well over my head, and I treaded water as I tugged the rope coil free. I made a quick slip knot of a noose, and as I got closer to the diver's body, the sound of sirens to the south became louder. I paddled closer, and another movement of water came by, and in a slight panic I realized I was too close. I bumped into the stiff rubber flippers just as they were rising up, and one of them caught me in my mouth. I nearly gagged from the smell and taste of the rubber, and my hands were shaking as I passed the rope around the two flippers and pulled it tight. I then looped the rope a few times around my right arm and began paddling back to shore. By then, some people were standing at the water's edge, shading their eyes from the glare in an odd type of salute, and as I swam in, I tried to do it at an angle, for the flippers were striking my back with each push toward shore, and the slimy touch of the rubber against my skin almost made me drop the rope a few times. The odor was of rubber and salt and decay, and I saw the flashing lights of a fire truck and a police cruiser on the street side of the concrete seawall, and the movement of people. In another minute or two, my feet touched the rough bottom, and I began wading ashore, pulling the soggy rope now with both hands. I was coughing and shivering as I walked past the surf line and onto the moist sands of the beach, dragging the diver behind me, and the crowd of people there came toward me. And in a brief moment, they scattered, and some of the women, and even a couple of the men, started screaming and yelling. Up on the seawall, a couple of cops and some firefighters began jogging toward me across the sand. The police had radio microphones in their hands, and the firefighters were carrying a Stokes litter. I dropped the rope and looked behind me, and then quickly looked back up at the seawall, knowing that I didn't want to get sick in front of all these people, though it seemed to be a marvelous idea, for the diver had no head or hands.